being undefeated now. Incineroar and Ursaluna are going to kick us off here in our first top 4 match of the Gdańsk Regional Championships. But on the other side, it is Volcarona and Incineroar.
And one of the key things just to pay attention to, which Intimidate goes first, and it was Juan's. So that means that the fake out advantage does go on Juan's side of the field. That means that if you did want to, you could fake out the Incineroar and get that Yawn into the Volcarona, which you would assume wants to be starting to get those Quiver Dances to keep itself safe from the attacks that can come out from the opposing Ursaluna. You've got the Intimidate onto the opposing Incineroar to keep the Volcarona safe. So it's just whether you want to fake out the Incineroar and get that guaranteed Yawn potentially into that Volcarona, or do you stop it from going for the Quiver Dance, but then that could have allowed maybe just a trade of fake outs or Parting Shot to reposition. Okay, so it's a fake out into Incineroar from Incineroar, and Volcarona does get its Quiver Dance going. Now, if it does get yawned, a lot of what Théotime was able to do in previous rounds was to say, yes, I'll go to sleep, but I've got those Quiver Dances up. I don't actually mind, because eventually I'm going to wake up and target my opponent back. Now the Yawn going into the Volcarona is feeling a little bit tired. Yeah, so the Volcarona getting that Quiver Dance and will be going to sleep here, and it looks like that is the option that Théotime is committing to. Get maybe another Quiver Dance, go to sleep, and then you hopefully will be bulky enough to wake up in the future. After a second Quiver Dance, the Ursaluna won't be doing much damage at all. The Incineroar is intimidated, and it could go for the knockoff into the opposing Volcarona, and I think that's why we're seeing not just the Parting Shot, because otherwise the knockoff could go first, because we've seen that once Incineroar is faster. That's why the Rillaboom is hard switching in here to get that Grassy Seed activated. Absolutely, make sure that your Grassy Seed goes off. That also weakens the damage that knockoff from Incineroar could do. So Théotime is making sure this Volcarona is set up to its best of its ability here, getting that second Quiver Dance up, getting the fake out to stall for time so that it's able to wake itself up. And there we go, we see the Parting Shot coming out from the Incineroar into the Volcarona, trying to keep it a little bit in check, making sure that Volcarona isn't just going to run riot when it wakes up from its next nap. And then we're going to see what is joining the field here. It would need to be the Sneasler to outspeed this Volcarona after 2 Quiver Dance boosts. Otherwise, whatever comes in will not be able to outspeed that Volcarona. And there is that Sneasler. And very kindly from Théotime's side of the field, bringing in a Rillaboom also activates the Grassy Seed on the Sneasler, so that is now unburdened and should be faster than the Volcarona. And a Yawn coming out onto this Rillaboom as well to make it drowsy. We sometimes call this the Yawn Vortex, where you just keep going for Yawns, and if your opponent doesn't switch out, well, they go to sleep, and then you can take advantage of that. Now, Volcarona is going to have to take its guaranteed turn of sleep, but this Rillaboom can switch out and reset that Yawn. If Intimidate comes back in here, actually it's looking pretty good still for Théotime's Volcarona, and while it doesn't look like we're making lots of progress, while it looks like the damage isn't racking up, we're just setting the board state ready. We're getting ready for all of those big turns later down in the match. Yeah, and helping out the Volcarona even more is that Incineroar switching in to intimidate that opposing Sneasler. We are going to see a Terrastalization coming out here, and it is going to be the Sneasler to try and get that extra damage on its Terraflying Acrobatics. Now that is active thanks to the Grassy Seed already being used up. And that would threaten super effective damage into this Volcarona. Oh, here's the Swords Dance. Swords Dance coming out from the Sneasler, making sure that it not just deals with that Intimidate, but actually goes to +1 stages of attack. And there's the Earth Power. The call there from Juan, seeing that Incineroar coming in. It was the obvious play. It was completely telegraphed. It wasn't the wrong play at all from Théotime, but Juan taking advantage of that. Yeah, if you go for the Earth Power into the Rillaboom and it stays in, it goes to sleep because it did get that Yawn on the previous turn. So that covers for Rillaboom staying in and also switching out into the Incineroar very, very nicely. At least the Yawn Vortex has been broken now, and you can now go for fake outs into the opposing Sneasler on this turn. And Volcarona has taken at least one of its mandatory turns of sleep, so we'll have to see now, is it able to wake up in the future turns? A Heat Wave is probably going to be enough to KO the Sneasler because it's got +2 to its special attack, so it'll be really, really close if it is. Ursaluna not going to be wanting to hang around here whatsoever. Instead, just Incineroar switching in to set up a fake out for next turn. If the Volcarona does not wake up, then there's fake out potential next turn. Here's the fake out into the Sneasler, so no acrobatics going to be going into the Volcarona this turn, but Volcarona is content to keep on sleeping. Yeah, that's a bit unfortunate for Théotime there. If that was a wake-up, that Heat Wave would have done some absolutely massive damage, maybe KO'd the Sneasler, and I reckon that would have probably been game over immediately. Now we've got to contend with the fake-out pressure on one side of the field. You could very safely just go for fake-out into Volcarona and Acrobatics into Incineroar, and that will be a KO. But you have to deal with this Volcarona, and especially now because it looks like it's going for that Terastallization to get rid of that weakness to the Acrobatics. With the Grassy Seed boost and only being +1, it's effectively cancelled out the +1 defense and the +1 attack now. This Volcarona should be able to survive this Acrobatics quite comfortably.
It's going to be so difficult to be able to deal with here. Fake out going into it, so it's not going to be targeted down this turn with a KO, but there's the Acrobatics you mentioned into Incineroar. So what I'm saying, instead of trying to deal with a Volcarona this turn, I'm just going to suppress it. It stayed asleep anyway, so it wasn't already necessary. But if the Rillaboom switched in there, you're covering it with an Acrobatics. If it didn't switch in there, you get a KO on the Incineroar, and that breaks this Rillaboom Incineroar cycle from going on and being able to stop you from doing any damage over various turns.
Yeah, and we're not seeing Rillaboom switch in here for fake-out pressure. It's going to be the Ninetales instead. And with the Focus Sash, that should be able to survive any attack that the Sneasler does go for here, and should be able to respond with a Blizzard KO because that Sneasler has now committed to that Terra Flying. The Incineroar's still pretty safe on this turn. The Volcarona's only at +1 because it Quiver Danced twice but got Parting Shotted.
Yes.
So it won't, like, you can't, not threatening the Incineroar this much this turn. It's probably pretty free to go for a Parting Shot if it wants to reposition. Or it can just go on the offensive here. Like a Flare Blitz, super effective damage into the Ninetales, or pretty reasonable damage into the Volcarona could be the option as well.
I think that's the question, is do you actually try to break down the Focus Sash on this turn, or is this the time that Juan needs to deal with that Volcarona? Because even though Théotime has the Pokemon disadvantage, actually overall, because of the Volcarona having so many boosts, it's actually Théotime in a pretty good spot, especially since it can hang on from that Acrobatics there. Gonna respond with another Quiver Dance. So after the third Quiver Dance will be now faster than a Sneasler, but if this is a double target in from the Incineroar, but it can't be. Encore coming into the Incineroar, so Théotime absolutely locking down that scenario. It has to go again for the Fake Out, but Fake Out only works on your first turn.
Yeah, and now, does a +3 speed boosted Volcarona outspeed an unburdened Sneasler?
I kind of think it does.
It comes down to the training. Like, you don't tend to invest as much in speed on the Sneasler because you'll get basically a guaranteed speed boost. So you invest a little bit in bulk, but yeah, +3, that's only a 2.5 times boost. Is that going to be enough to outspeed the Sneasler? That's going to be incredibly crucial on this turn.
We'll have to find out very, very soon here as we get the Ursaluna switching back in.
It does!
It is the Heat Wave that's coming out. 2+ KO and a burn on the Ursaluna, doing so much damage, putting Juan Salerno in a precarious situation here, especially since the Ninetales has yet to act this turn, and it's maintained its Focus Sash. There's the Blizzard, single target, double KO for Théotime Massaut.
Fantastic turn there for Théotime. Outspeeding was so crucial there. If the Sneasler was faster still, it would have been able to get that KO with the Acrobatics, but no, the Volcarona able to get that KO, followed up with the Blizzard. We're now down to the last two Pokemon on one side of the field. That is going to be the Rillaboom that was unrevealed, paired up with that Incineroar. And now you can just double protect on the Fake-Out turn, and then there's probably nothing stopping you here from getting that sweep going.
Well, it depends whether or not the Grassy Seed boost is enough to protect this Volcarona or not from a Grassy Glide. It's a Terra Fairy, so it doesn't resist or quad resist the Grassy Glide anymore. And if that Rillaboom that we saw in previous matches with Juan was trained like it looked like it was pretty offensively trained, maybe even after the Grassy Terrain recovery, it could be enough.
Yeah, it definitely could be. Well, we've seen that Grassy Seed be very, very clutch in his top 8 match, so whether that's going to be the case again here, we will have to wait and see. I don't really think actually you can go for Fake Out because you've got that Encore pressure on the Ninetales, because if you go for that,
true,
especially with Incineroar, maybe the Rillaboom can afford to go for Fake Out because you can always Grassy Glide past that Encore. But yeah, there's that very, very safe protect coming out from the Volcarona, whether that was a Grassy Glide, which it looks like it was going into that Volcarona. Now the Ninetales is free to go for whatever it wants this turn.
Okay, so Ninetales gets to go for a Blizzard here, and it will be enough to do a good chunk of damage to that Rillaboom, but it doesn't look like it's a 2-hit KO. Now, Parting Shot from the Incineroar gets to lower the damage that the Ninetales is able to do. Yes, there is the opportunity for Flare Blitz, but I think Juan is just thinking about the HP recoil that he would take from a Flare Blitz in this spot, maybe thinking that the Incineroar just needs to hang on with all of the HP possible. Here's the Grassy Glide. Not enough. Not enough to pick up the KO. This Volcarona is going to be able to get a Terra Blast off.
Yeah, and that basically seals up the game. Even if this doesn't KO the Rillaboom, which it did end up doing, the Incineroar going for Parting Shot means that it is encoreable. It's now another word I get to add, because now it will be stuck doing no damage for the rest of this game. There it is. The Incineroar is completely locked down, and Théotime has locked down this game 1.
Wow. What a way to do it as well. There's the Parting Shot, so it doesn't matter how many times the Ninetales or the Volcarona's special attack and attack is dropped, this Incineroar will never be able to do any more damage again. And with the Ninetales also having access to the Disable on Théotime's side, this set that doesn't have any other offensive moves, also doesn't have Aurora Veil, now the Disable locks down this Incineroar into just being able to struggle, and that is if the Volcarona doesn't already take it down with a Terra Fairy Terra Blast.
Yeah, 2 Terra Fairy Terra Blast should be able to pick up the KO regardless, but yeah, that was a perfect lockdown from Théotime. Again, the Grassy Seed coming into play there on the Volcarona.
But also I think the Grassy Terrain coming into play as well, because 12 HP is about the amount of HP that the Grassy Terrain recovers on Volcarona every turn.
Yeah, well, we'll actually be able to see, because we'll see the recovery that would have happened on the Volcarona. If we actually make it through this turn, there is that Terra Blast. We'll be able to see how much damage that will do to the opposing Incineroar. Yeah, that's more than a 2-shot, yeah.
Okay, so there is the Disable into the Incineroar. It's going to fail whatever move that it was locked into, Parting Shot being the move of choice here, and then next turn, it's going to have to struggle.
It was exactly 12, yeah.
It was exactly 12.
Yeah, so perfectly trained Volcarona there
exactly.
to get that survival.
Wow.
Absolutely well done from Théotime. We just have to get through this last turn, but of course, this is the semi-final of a regional championship.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense for Juan to be taking this extra thinking time. The game is over. We are now going through the motions, but this is allowing Juan that extra time to get that thinking in.
And let's take this opportunity to just acknowledge that Juan has had such a crazy run through this tournament. There are not many games of Pokemon, and certainly not matches of Pokemon, that Juan has lost. Théotime has now increased that ticker. Now, if Juan wants to take this championship, he's going to have to beat Théotime twice in a row. But if Théotime wins even one of the next 2 games, then he will be going on to our finals.
Yep, there we go. We've gone through the final motion here. The Terra Blast is enough to be able to pick up that Incineroar, and now we can finally properly confirm that Théotime is taking this game 1.
Okay, so Théotime wins game 1 here in Gdańsk, and now we turn our attention forwards to game 2. This is a matchup that Théotime is clearly very well versed in. He said to me earlier, after he won his last match, I asked him, can he achieve greater than top 4? He said yes, and now he is proving it against Juan Salerno, our undefeated player. Looking forward to game 2 now, Jamie. What are you thinking in terms of adaptations that Juan can make?
I think now that we know for sure that the Volcarona at +3 will outspeed the Sneasler, now that we know that, I think that maybe Juan was banking on the fact that Sneasler could still outspeed at just Unburdens instead, but the fact that there was that double KO on that turn, that just completely sealed it immediately. So now that both players know that, and we, like Théotime, it seems like it's a very Volcarona-centric game plan. Get those Quiver Dances. Don't even care about the Yawns. I'm still gonna be waking up at some point. I've got all this bulk because of the Quiver Dances on the special side. I've got the extra bulk with the Grassy Seed and the Intimidates from Incineroar helping it out as well. So given that that is the game plan that Théotime seems to be going for, like the Dragonite could help with hazes in that case, but then you've also got the Terra Fairy, which would make it useless otherwise. So that is an option to be able to stop all those boosts on the Volcarona, but then what would you do afterwards to the Dragonite? So maybe you can't even opt into that.
just shows you how much of a tough matchup we have here in our top 4. Théotime Massaut versus Juan Salerno.
Oh, here we go.
And we're getting into game 2 here. And it looks like we've got a mirror between these two trainers because Incineroar and Ursaluna are on both sides of the field.
Yeah, and the Intimidate still going first on one side of the field, still most likely going to be the faster Pokemon. I don't think we've seen the confirmation of which Ursaluna is faster, though. So that's always an interesting thing to see of how much speed do you commit and sacrifice your bulk or special attack, because lots of Ursalunas, especially the Yawn leftovers ones, do opt into a lot of bulk, and then just how much faster you go. We'll have to see on this first turn. Well, we may not be able to see because we might just see him protect here instead.
Well, Incineroar on Théotime's side switching out for the Rillaboom, knowing from game 1 that Juan was very confident to go for the fake out into this Incineroar. Now a protect Théotime not wanting to take any risk. Already a game up, maybe doesn't feel the need to play this one quickly.
Yeah, there we go. There was the fake out into the Ursaluna on Théotime's side of the field, and there is that Yawn coming out. We're already in the Yawn vortex on Théotime's side of the field, but because we had that fake out and just the protect as well, the Yawns haven't started going on one side.
No, and now it is a choice. That choice that we've had throughout all of these games, whether or not you stay in. Now, Rillaboom isn't able to get those Quiver Dance boosts up. It cannot just stay on the field and accept it. But even if there's a prediction here, maybe this is the time for Théotime to go on the offensive, take a risk, and just go for a straight Woodhammer into the Ursaluna, put it down at low HP, and then play the game from there. That could put Théotime on the front foot if he wants to take a risk like that.
One of the main things that's going to be able to break through the Volcarona that we did get the sneak peek of in the back would be those Yawns, because otherwise you're going to be able to Quiver Dance completely freely here. But no, not going to be going on the offensive with the Rillaboom, not going for that Woodhammer, potentially KOing that Ursaluna or bringing it incredibly low. It's instead going to be the safe switch in of the Incineroar once again.
And protect on Ursaluna on one side of the field. These two teams are neck and neck so far. But here is the first deviation. Parting shot into the Ursaluna, making sure that it's not doing too much damage. Now, with Théotime bringing in the Incineroar already, Juan gets to choose what Pokemon he's bringing in. And lo and behold, could you have guessed it, Jamie? It is the Rillaboom coming in unintimidated and getting yawned for its troubles.
This is a true mirror here, because yeah, the Rillaboom well, true mirror. Things usually happen on the same turn. This is like slightly staggered.
This is like a slightly cracked mirror here, where we're slightly offset on either side of the mirror there. But I think the key with these matchups is that, like in game 1, things don't happen in the first few turns because these teams are so bulky, they have so much staying power, and they're able to...
He went for the Woodhammer, no
protect. Go for it, here's the Woodhammer, and it is enough! It's enough! Juan Salerno gets a big KO onto that Ursaluna. That is absolutely critical. No more yawns, but this Rillaboom will go to sleep at the end of this turn. Now we're getting that mirror. The parting shot coming into the Ursaluna, dropping its special attack and attack stat, where Incineroar gets to switch into another Pokemon. But if this Ursaluna has already gone on the offensive as well, or even just put a yawn out into what now is the Rillaboom, then it could be a pretty swift game here. Blood Moon into the Rillaboom, good amount of damage.
Yeah, but I think the yawn was surely preferable there, because now you can bring in that Volcarona that is waiting in the back. And now that the Rillaboom is asleep and has to take a guaranteed turn of sleep, you can very easily threaten down this Ursaluna with the Woodhammer KO. If you're expecting it to defensively Terra so it can survive that attack, you can just go for Fake Out and Quiver Dance instead.
Yeah.
Like, I think that the Sneasler, again, has to be in the back for Juan here, because that was a big KO on the Ursaluna. But remember, Théotime focuses very hard on this Volcarona as the Pokemon that's going to sweep. So sacrificing the entire Ursaluna just for a sleeping Pokemon might have been a worthwhile trade.
I think so. And we talk about paid switches. Yeah, sometimes you have to pay a lot for your switches in and getting into these better situations for you, where now the sleeping Rillaboom will not even take its mandatory turn of sleep here, switching straight out into the Incineroar. So making sure that Théotime cannot go for the same sort of play that Juan just made, a Woodhammer straight into that Ursaluna, and now instead can just go for the fake out and get that Quiver Dance going. Double sure with the terrestrialization of the Terra Electric onto the Ursaluna as well.
Yeah, just in case there was the Woodhammer, but no, it was the fake out, the safe play here, and you've now scouted the Terastallization. Of course, the Volcarona always going to go for the Quiver Dance on that turn, and now you've got that Quiver Dance up. Maybe the Heat Wave and Woodhammer would be enough to KO this Ursaluna. Of course, you've got the boosts on the defensive side to keep yourself safe from the knockoffs. You've got the boost on the special side to keep yourself safe from the Blood Moons. Now I think this turn of just that you've got a yawn, right? It's got to be a yawn into one of these Pokemon because the Blood Moon won't be doing enough damage into the Assault Vest Rillaboom and the Quiver Dance Volcarona. So now it's, do you yawn the Rillaboom to get the Yawn Vortex going guaranteed? Yeah. But then if the Volcarona goes on the offensive, then that is really, really bad for you. And if the Volcarona does go on the offensive, the correct play would be fake out and yawn that Volcarona. So yeah, it's a bit of an awkward situation.
But what if the play is to just go for another Quiver Dance? Because if the Volcarona gets to 3 stages of increased special attack, special defense, and speed, then we know that it's going to outspeed the Sneasler in the end game if the Sneasler is indeed in the back. Most certain the grassy terrain will be in play and the Sneasler will get its unburden boost overall. But it's so difficult. I feel like Théotime with a Pokemon down just has to make sure that those Quiver Dances are in play. I think that's why, again, we're getting that revolving door of Pokemon where Incineroar comes in for the Rillaboom, intimidates the Incineroar on Juan's side, and now gets the opportunity to go for that second Quiver Dance here with the Volcarona, get its stats boosted up even further.
And we'll have to see what Juan decides to do. It was Flare Blitz, but into the Incineroar. So really nicely done there on Théotime's side of the field. What is this Ursaluna going to target? Is the on, and it was into the Volcarona. So able to catch that very, very nicely there. So this Volcarona, if it wants to keep all its boosts, which Théotime, it does definitely want to do. Presumably you do want to keep that, then it will be going to sleep on this next turn.
Okay, but now the Volcarona gets the opportunity to get that third Quiver Dance up. We haven't seen the Sneasler yet, and there is the opportunity for Théotime to play a little bit more of that defensive game, get those parting shots, get the Incineroar out there, get the Rillaboom back in, get that grassy terrain up, but also more importantly, keep that fake out pressure going.
Yeah, and then the Volcarona, I think, is still in a prime position here, regardless of the fact that it's going to sleep on the next turn. The Ursaluna is still incredibly healthy. It hasn't been attacked at all. Do you consider just going for the Heat Wave here, potentially, to pick up that knockout? No, I think you need the Quiver Dance.
I think the Quiver Dance, yeah, and that's exactly...
in the back.
Exactly. I think that's exactly what Théotime is thinking as well. If you can get to a point where the Sneasler is in the back, but you've got all 3 of your Quiver Dances up, then maybe all of the damage can come right at the end of the game. It's not important doing damage at the start because the end game is what we're playing towards here from Théotime's side, and Juan has played an excellent game, putting the pressure on over and over again to just keep the Volcarona being able to get all of those boosts up. Now Incineroar gets the parting shot, switching out into Rillaboom, and I think Juan is thanking the Théotime here for setting up that grassy terrain.
Again.
And yeah, just being able to get it up, get the grassy seed going on the Sneasler, and get that key unburden boost.
We do have the Volcarona now at 3 stages of increased speed, so it will be outspeeding the Sneasler. It's the Earth Power into the Incineroar that did switch out. That could have been another yawn into the
critical hit.
Yeah, a little bit of an extra. Oh, and a special defense drop.
Well, that special defense drop could actually be big.
That could be big. That might put it in range of Blood Moon now. But if it would have been the yawn, then you'd have to make the awkward decision on Théotime's side of the field, where do you fake out the Sneasler to definitely burn a turn of sleep, or do you switch out into the Incineroar to get the Intimidate and then a future turn of Fake Out? But yeah, now that you've got that special defense drop, you could just consider going for that Blood Moon instead. The Sneasler, it's surely got to go for a Swords Dance on this turn because you've got it basically guaranteed. And Terra Flying surely to... No, you can't even Terra Flying because you've got the Terra Electric. So actually, you could just go on the offensive with the Rillaboom because it does have access to that high horsepower. And we've seen before, that was able to knock out the Lewis's Sneasler in the previous game. It could have done a lot of damage, but no, going for the Intimidate instead this time.
Yeah, Incineroar switching in for that Rillaboom, getting the Intimidate back down onto it. I still think, even without the Terra Flying boost, the Sneasler's acrobatics is still going to be very much a threat in this spot. Now Ursaluna coming back, and Juan probably wanting to do a similar thing to what Théotime's been doing. Bring those fake outers with a Pokemon that can boost up. It's already got all of the speed that it needs, but it maybe needs a couple of extra Swords Dances to be able to come back into this match. Now the acrobatics going into the Incineroar. I feel like this match has been just a story of Juan just attacking into slots and just trying for something that's in front of him, making Théotime have to switch out, conditioning those switches in the match. And the first one, the Woodhammer, came off, but everyone since Théotime has been able to deal with.
Yeah, it seems like Juan's going for the oh no, it doesn't even matter here because we've got the wake up immediately from the Volcarona, and it's a fourth Quiver Dance coming out from this Volcarona. Wow, it is incredibly boosted right now, but that was the fake out into the Sneasler to put a stop to any of the Swords Dances or Acrobatics, but they've got the parting shot at least from the Incineroar that's going to cancel that Quiver Dance.
Yeah, so effectively, at the moment, this Volcarona is at 2 increased stages of special attack, but 4 increased stages of special defense and speed. It's certainly going to be the fastest thing out there. And I feel like if the question that we were asking at the start of this game was how many Quiver Dances does this Volcarona want to get, the answer is yes.
It seems so. Who knows? Maybe we'll get to +6 by the end of the game, but the Volcarona still looks in a prime position to be able to start going for those sweeps. You've broken through the Yawn sleep now. It would take an extra 2 turns to be able to put that Volcarona to sleep, but it's going the offensive. Oh, and it missed something with the Heat Wave. It looks like it missed the Sneasler, and the Ursaluna was able to survive.
Close combat now into the Incineroar, not enough to pick up the KO. Really needed those boosts to be coming in clutch on the Sneasler, and now this Incineroar gets to attack yet again, and there's a taunt coming out from the Incineroar, so no more Yawns coming out from this. And it was a Yawn coming out from this Blood Moon Ursaluna, so this Volcarona is in prime position. Théotime in Game 2 has yet to pick up any KOs, but is he about to pick up 4 KOs in quick succession?
Just seen that the Heat Wave is for sure a 2-shot on that opposing Ursaluna.
Yeah.
That +2 is that you've got a close combat drop on the Sneasler. That's surely got to be enough now. So I think you just need to connect your Heat Waves and you will be able to sweep through this game.
Sometimes that's a tall order, but we are first going to switch out the Blood Moon Ursaluna. The Incineroar presumably is going to come in its place. It's at full HP. Not much damage has been dealt so far by Théotime, but this is the moment that all starts to change with the Volcarona going on the offensive. Now Sneasler is going to protect itself this time round, and no damage is going to be coming into the Sneasler, but the Incineroar is going to take some for its troubles. Now, parting shot coming in from the Incineroar on Théotime's side. That's going to allow a faster fake out to come in from the back in that Rillaboom and keep this offensive momentum that Théotime has been able to create going.
Yeah, and with that for Rillaboom, you've got the fake out pressure. Now you've got a choice. You could go for fake out into Incineroar because you are going to be faster here, and then you just need to connect your Heat Wave. But that's not consistent, so that is something to consider. You could go for the fake out into the Sneasler as the safest way, but then on that turn you could just trade fake outs and then lose that fake out pressure.
Yes.
So it depends. Like, Heat Wave has the potential to sweep through this entire team now, but it does need to be able to connect. So do you take this slight risk to be able to definitely go for the Heat Wave this turn, or do you play it slightly safe and sacrifice potentially your fake out pressure so that you have that opportunity in the future?
It's such a difficult decision because at this late stage in the tournament where you know that you are in a potentially winning position, it's easy to overthink these turns. Do you just go for the Heat Wave, or do you try to play a more consistent turn to make sure that you guaranteed to make progress here? Here's the Terra Fairy, so making sure that any acrobatics coming out from the Sneasler this turn are not going to be able to KO this Volcarona without a critical hit. Incineroar going first. Faster. Incineroar faster than the Rillaboom. That's why Juan Salerno was so confident with the fake out coming out this turn. It's a Terra Fairy, Terra Blast into the Incineroar, picking up the KO here. That's one of the fake outs gone for Juan Salerno, but now the Sneasler will be able to reply. Acrobatics into the Rillaboom. Not enough after all those Intimidates, and not enough Swords Dance coming out from this Sneasler, and now it is free Pokemon to free.
Yeah, and so we've got here, coming back in, joining the field, the Ursaluna. So this could be a Heat Wave. Heat Wave will be able to KO both Pokemon. Do you go for the Terra Blast for the consistency and get a cycle going once again with a fake out? Because if you go for the Terra Blast, then you'll be stopping the Yawns potentially if you go for the Ursaluna, or you'll be stopping the acrobatics or the Swords Dances or the close combats coming out from the Sneasler. I think that based on the fact that, yeah, we've just seen the Sneasler is -2, you could pretty safely here go for the Terra Blast into the Ursaluna, and that would be a KO. And yeah, well, it won't be a KO this turn because it is going to go for the protect.
Okay, so Ursaluna just making sure that it's not taking any damage. There's the Terror Blast into the Ursaluna. So Juan Salerno making full advantage of the fact that he knows that Théotime doesn't want to play this with Heat Wave, instead trying to target down one Pokemon at a time with 100% accuracy, and is able to knock out that Rillaboom with an Acrobatics. Now 2 Pokemon for Théotime, but that Volcarona is still looking threatening. At some point, Théotime can change tactics and just go for the Heat Wave, but I feel like at this point, Théotime wants to try as much as physically possible to not click that button if they have any opportunity to do something else.
Yeah, you've just had the Protect come out from the Ursaluna, so Fake Out into Sneasler and Terror Blast into Ursaluna is all but guaranteed on this turn. And then you'll just have to contend with the Fake Out pressure, maybe the Fake Out pressure immediately coming out from this Rillaboom on this turn, because the Ursaluna did switch.
Okay, so Rillaboom coming in here. It is asleep. It has yet to take its guaranteed turn of sleep as well. No fake out in the back for Juan Salerno. It is the fake out coming out from this Incineroar. Terror Blast coming from Volcarona. Going down into that Rillaboom. Probably not going to be picking up the KO. No, Rillaboom hanging on. But now it is time for this Sneasler maybe to be targeted down, because now you've got a Pokemon that's sleeping next to the Sneasler, and this, I think, is the opportunity that Théotime was looking for.
Yeah, because if you've got the guaranteed sleep on that Rillaboom, you go for Terror Blast, and that's a KO into Sneasler 100% of the time. You go for Knockoff into the Rillaboom, that's going to be a KO 100% of the time. So it seems like we're going to the final turn here, because that Sneasler did go for a Protect, so it looks like the Terror Blast will go into the Sneasler and not KO because of that Protect. The Knockoff will go into that Rillaboom, and then maybe you do now need to consider going for that Heat Wave. But then the Sneasler's what? -3 now, because it was intimidated once again. You can still just go for the Terror Blast into the Ursaluna, because then that's still the consistent option. And the damage output from the Sneasler, it won't be good enough here.
Well, that is it. That is the question mark that Théotime is going to have to answer. He is so close, not just to knocking out our undefeated player, but
there's
for
3
the
minutes
first
left.
time,
We're actually
3 minutes left at the time, but this is going to have to resolve very, very quickly here. And only 2 Pokemon stand between Théotime Massaut and being able to be in our finalists.
Is this possible to win on time if you're trying the consistent option of Terror Blast into Ursaluna? Because you could go for close combat KO into Incineroar.
Yeah, right.
Advantage. So is it possible with maybe a double or maybe necessarily a triple Protect that Juan could actually win this on time? Like, you want the consistency of Terror Blast is 100% accurate, and I can just do this. If T-Team had 10 more minutes, game over for sure at this point, unless there was, I think even with a critical hit acrobatics, it would KO the Volcarona. So T-Team should have this, but the fact that we're so low on time now, that might come into play here. But the Sneasler actually went for the Protect on this turn.
Okay, so Protect on the Sneasler, that's not going down.
Oh no, it targeted the Sneasler!
Terror Blast into the Sneasler. If this Ursaluna is picking up the KO onto the Incineroar this turn, we have a taunt. This Ursaluna cannot protect. 2 minutes left of this game. Now the Incineroar
it's now the
goes
2v1.
down 2v1.
Is this possible?
It is possible, but I think the Sneasler is going to have to go for a bit of damage here, because now that the Ursaluna has been taunted, the KO on that slot is almost guaranteed. If the Sneasler does not go for damage, if Juan does not get any damage onto this Volcarona, which is, I mean, it's not going to do much, but it could do something to shift a battle in your favor. But then, what if you just get the Sneasler knocked out this turn? What if this is the turn that Heat Wave comes out from Théotime Massaut? This is so, so close. The Heat Wave has been locked in here.
Yeah, it seems so.
Wow.
Are you going to be able to dodge or maybe get the triple Protect?
This is it. This is so, so close. And Juan is still trying to consider what he's going to be doing, what moves he's going to lock in. One more minute.
This is the final turn of the game, for sure.
Final turn of this game. Here we go. The moves have been locked in. Double connect here, and Théotime Massaut will be taking down Juan Salerno and becoming your first finalist here in Gdańsk.
He's done it. He's broken through our undefeated player and has reached his first ever final at a major tournament. What a game to conclude here. in this semi-final.